It's time for the Week in Review. Look at national, regional, and local stories from the past week. Here's Brandon Hansen, Managing Editor of the Chewelah Independent, and Scott Allen, Managing Director of Northern Lights Public Radio.
Thanks for joining us for this week's show. And Brandon, I have to say, after looking over the notes, it almost looks like odd news to start off with.
Doesn't it, though? It's all over the place. Goodness. Let's just dive right into this.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you the headline and see if you can stop from laughing.
Okay.
Man steals golf clubs, frozen meat from Chewelah Golf Course.
Ooh, yes. It sounds like a bad idea because isn't there basically really just one way in and one way out?
Yeah, essentially.
When you're up on that hill.
And they might have cameras, I'm just saying.
Maybe.
Chewelah man has been charged with stealing golf clubs and, get this, frozen steaks from the Chewelah Golf and Country Club, and then trying to sell the clubs to a local metal scrap business. The suspect in mind is Matthew Sitton, 34, who was arrested at his mother's house on June 3rd after the head golf pro, Josh Olson, discovered that his clubs were missing from the clubhouse basement. The theft was, get this, recorded a day earlier on the golf course video security system, and Chewelah police officer James Glover immediately recognized Sitton in the video carrying the clubs. The video also showed Sitton taking frozen steaks and putting them in his pants.
Nice. I thought I only saw that on Yahoo.
The clubs, since, Josh is a pretty good golfer, the clubs are valued at $4,500, which are way more than the clubs I have that were given to me for free.
Wow, that's more than any of my cars.
The car I'm driving right now, yeah, that's more expensive.
That's all the cars I drive. Put together.
And here's the big one. The steaks are $250 worth. So,
right.
so if you go to the grocery store, that's like 4 steaks.
So now you would think something like that would be maybe like a petty crime or something like that. But when you find out the price of those golf clubs, wow, that's going to up your penalty a lot. Yeah.
So around the same time, police dispatchers took a call from Wayne Peck at his metal scrap business, and he said Sitton had tried to sell him the clubs for scrap, but Peck declined the clubs after Sitton admitted that they were stolen. So he admitted that they were stolen. People recovered the stolen clubs at the home where Sitton was arrested. Sitton is charged with theft in the 3rd degree for the steaks, theft in the 2nd degree for the golf clubs, and trafficking stolen property in the 1st degree for his attempt to sell the clubs.
Ouch.
So, yeah, there we go.
Bad ideas all the way around.
Yes. But, yeah, so his arraignment will be on June 18th in Stevens County Superior Court.
All right. Wow. I saw another note. We kind of skipped over it because I led into it, and that is the heat coming on fast.
Yes.
And people to be aware of heat stroke and exhaustion.
Yeah, you got to be aware of that, especially we're reaching into the 90s. The sun's out all day, obviously. And people are outside a lot more, whether it's doing yard work, whether it's going to the lake, whether it's just enjoying the outdoors. Really be conscious of heat stroke and exhaustion. We kind of just say, oh, I'm hot, kind of deal. But make sure you have lots of water, you stay hydrated. And one good thing I heard is you just can't, bring a lot of water on a trip and be like, oh, I'm good. It's a full commitment. Like, start drinking water even if you're not going outside a lot or anything like that. That way your body's hydrated before it even goes out into the hot, because it can be pretty serious.
One of the big things I know that causes like heart attacks in men over 50, they talk about in the wintertime is shoveling snow.
Right.
But in the summertime, it's mowing that lawn because you've got that commitment to the lawn. Right. And I got to get it done. And you're out there in the sun. Maybe you're doing it in the wrong part of the day. And I've noticed, I've done it to myself. I've given myself heat stroke mowing the lawn before or working outside really. It comes up on you fast. And you don't even realize that you've done it to yourself. And by the time it hits you, it's almost too late.
Yep. And, heat stroke is not a good deal. You got to call 911 right away. Heat exhaustion, just cool down. Make sure you're in a cool room. Drink lots of water. Try and just, get your body back into, a good condition there.
All right, that's our public service message.
Yeah, the more you know. Moving on to state news, workers in Washington are making more money.
That's good.
Yes, workers in Washington are making more money according to the state's Employment Security Department. New numbers released Wednesday show Washington's average annual wage grew by 5.5% in 2018 to $65,301. Comparatively, Idaho's average wage was $43,480. So there's a bit of difference across state lines there. Washington's news statistics represent the largest increase year over year since 2006. The average worker in Washington made $1,255 per week in 2018.
Wow.
So people are making more money in Washington. I've seen a few other articles, saying that the economy is kind of booming for the state, and I'm sure that's a little hard of a pill to swallow for people in Eastern Washington that may not reap the total rewards of that because, a lot of commerce goes on the western side of the state. There's a lot of commerce, booming in Spokane and the Tri-Cities and even Yakima. I was down in Yakima, and every time I go down there, it seems like something's changed majorly down there.
But it is here, too, to a smaller effect. I remember having an interview last summer with the city administrator, and he was talking about having a record number of new building permits and stuff in Chewelah. Right. And you can still see that kind of stuff going on. Last week we had a story that employment was up in Stevens County, even though not as up as a lot of other places, but still a big jump for Stevens County.
Right, and we talked about the money Chewelah made in a year was something like $41 million, which we both went, huh? That much for this little town?
Where's it floating around at? Because I'd like to catch a piece of that.
Yeah, it's all in those meat steaks in somebody's pants there. So.
That's going to stick with you, isn't it?
Yeah. All right. Well, do you want to read the next story? I want to get your opinion on this.
You want to get my opinion on it? Okay, because I've been kind of standing in the background on this one. Parking changes in Chewelah. After months-long discussion, the council approved a new striping plan for East Main Avenue, which they will hope will improve the safety along the busy retail corridor. Now, ultimately, these safety considerations trump the desire of some of the council and in the community who wanted to see more parking spaces downtown because there is a little lack of room sometimes when stuff's going on.
Yeah, a little bit.
Generally, the look and the feel of the parking on East Main between Highway 395 and 5th Street East will be mostly the same, except the angle parking on the north side of the street will change from 45 degrees to 35 degrees.
So it'll flatten out a little bit.
Right. This is going to allow for a wider driving lane on that side, and that's where we have the problems with all the trucks sticking out. So that sounds like a smart one.
Yep.
All right. Earlier options presented by Councilwoman Nicole Norvell would have increased the total number of parking stalls by converting the parallel parking on the south side of the street to angle parking. But the council opted to keep the parallel parking on the south side and decrease the parking angle on the north side, which will result in a loss of 4 parking spaces in the area. Not very many at all.
Yeah, and there was kind of a debate. It was like, I thought, we were supposed to kind of help add more spots in downtown or whatever. But I think most people's complaints is that pulling out, that backing out of a space and not being able to see somebody kind of barreling down the street. So I would go over, I would take safety any day over 4 parking spots.
Really, go on the side of the street.
That's
search
what
a little.
And I understand that there are a lot of older people in town that can't make, long walks or anything like that. And I feel for them there. Maybe the city could do something in terms of more handicap parking in prime spots or something like that.
That's exactly what I was thinking, because one of the bad spots is that strip between 2nd and 3rd.
Right.
On the north side of the street there. It starts with Dr. Kolsted's and ends with Jeannie's. The coffee shop.
Right.
That there is no handicapped on that row, and I kind of wonder why there. Because that might, of a couple spaces in that section, that's a hot spot and a dangerous spot for people trying to get out on 2nd and 3rd. It seems that maybe having a handicapped would be good, because that is the problem. Now we have fewer spaces on that side of the road, and here that comes somebody that uses a walker and they want to go to the second-hand store.
Right.
And that's not realistic for them to park on the side of the street. So I'm with you on the handicap, totally.
And that's going to be an issue everywhere is the problem. when you go into Spokane, it's tough to find parking. You go anywhere now, it's tough to find parking. So I don't know how you come up with a solution that really helps everybody. I think safety should be the number one thing for this city, and I'm glad they're doing this, because I know what everybody feels like trying to back out and there's a big truck next to you and you can't quite see.
I think worse than that, because you can slowly inch, and I haven't seen a bunch of accidents from somebody backing out.
Right, because usually
worse
it's
than that
slow
is
speed.
trying to duck out on from the north side of North 3rd Street East between Setty's and the coffee shop. When you're trying to make a left or a right-hand turn there because of the angled parking and big trucks, it's impossible to see. I don't know how much the angle's going to change that,
Right.
but that has been a spot. And the problem I always saw there, and I thought it was you're saying a safety for the people and safety for the city. You're right, because I always thought that intersection was a huge liability for the city, because it is impossible to get out to sea without breaking driving rules.
Right.
Laws.
Or creeping out there.
Creeping
yeah.
out there and being across the crosswalk and all that. So in order to make a safe turn on that intersection, you have to break the law. and I think that creates a liability there, you know.
I'm just imagining you on the street corner with nah, don't do that.
Yeah, I mean, I would have, if I was to get a ticket there for something like that, I'd have a huge issue for that, and I would fight it.
Right.
So I'm glad they're curing it, because I always saw that in the back of my head as a potential problem.
Right.
So.
Right. And I think if we want to really get more spots, we should probably look into developing the side streets. Either, making more spots there.
We've got some wide ones that could do some angled parking
Right.
on the side of streets. Third Street, it's a horrible street anyways.
Right,
But
right.
it is really wide.
And there's a lot more parking further down by where Monica's is and everything. There's a lot of angle parking there, so you may have to walk a little bit, but 1 or 2 blocks is nothing compared to what you have to usually walk in like Spokane or things like that. So I think you could develop a lot more side street parking, and the majority of people would be good. I know some people are in walkers and stuff like that, but I feel like that it's really going to be hard to completely accommodate all those people, because they're probably going to have those issues anywhere they go, is the only issue.
It's too bad we didn't have a nice empty lot right downtown on Main Street or close to it, that the city could purchase and turn into parking. That seems like something reasonable for the economy of the city to me. And at one point when the Rebecca Hall had closed down, a friend of mine had said, sure be nice if the city could buy that lot and pave it and turn it into parking for downtown. Well, that building's been sold now, but when I heard that, I went, what an excellent idea, because that
Right. would
would solve some of the problems downtown. But we seem to get around okay,
Yeah,
unless they're doing paving.
Yeah. Oh, road work.
Any paving comments, Brandon?
No, I'm fine. I'm
Okay.
glad that they're working on it, because if they don't do that work, people complain about the roads, and people also complain about them working on the roads and having to wait a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's a double-edged sword there.
All right, so your last story that you have, is this a possible economic boom for us, Brandon?
Yeah, Western Magnesium Corporation announced it had issued an indication of interest to acquire the former Addy Alcoa plant that has been shut down for nearly 2 decades and had previously employed a lot of workers around here. If this is successful, the site will create a center for magnesium metal production and innovation. This is from the press release. The company wants to take advantage of their revolutionary clean production process and will be a low-cost producer of green primary magnesium.
I like the way that reads.
Oh, doesn't it just roll off the tongue?
Yeah, but the fact that a company coming in to wanting to do something new and do it green, that's cool.
Right. And the former Addy plant stopped production in 2001. Western Magnesium feels that it still has the proper infrastructure, including a major supply of dolomite and rail accessibility. I mean, the rails go right there, so that's
awesome,
a big deal.
Yeah.
So this could be a site for a new smelter, but it would create new jobs and probably new construction jobs. I'm sure that plant
Oh,
has sat
yeah.
there for a long time. They'd have to do a lot of work.
Have
to
you
it.
pulled in there and kind of taken a look around?
Yeah,
a lot of
taken a
it's
look around.
dilapidated. Yeah.
Yep. So I'm sure they'd have to, do work to that. But this kind of magnesium would be useful in automotive, aerospace, defense, and other manufacturing industries. So yeah, it's looking like they'd have an industry to, sell to there. And they say their commercial furnishers take a smaller footprint than other operations, and they feel that they're going to be one of those zero waste goal companies kind of deal.
Wow, that's cool, and what a that excites me to hear companies talking about that just for the future, because you don't hear it very often.
Right, and this is one of those deals where this is very, 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 very early. I mean, let's just say this again: an indication of interest to acquire. So that's a few little.
We're interested in this, but
Yeah.
we want to do some research and find out how it goes.
So they'll look into it, see how it goes. I know that a lot of people around here would love to see something like that back in the area, creating more jobs for families, things like that. Would bring kind of a boom to the schools as well to have more kids, which in turn gives them more money from the state kind of deal. So I know they'd be interested in that, but we're a long ways off. Another thing, I know they talk about a lot about the zero waste and being green and stuff. We kind of saw how the smelter thing in Newport has gone with people protesting it and getting really upset. Remember when Jay Inslee came here, and there were people from Newport over here protesting the smelter in Newport. So
Yeah.
you can kind of see how a big company moving in, wanting to put in a plant, does create, some tension between people.
There's
So-
that fine line. We need jobs. We want industry. Oh my gosh, we don't want pollution and our skies filled or our air filled with something that we don't want. So
Right, and
hopefully,
it's not saying they would do that. It's just saying, some people are going to make assumptions already on either side and just be like, no, it'll be fine, or no, this is going to be the worst thing ever. So,
Well, maybe that's why they lead with the propaganda of the company wanting ultimately to be a zero waste company.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Good
And
endeavors.
And I know Alcoa dealt with some heavy metals there, and I know some people around, Addie were not happy with that.
There was lawsuits and
Yeah.
everything over farm animals, all sorts of stuff through the years. Yeah.
So, moving in, they probably, if they want to go there and have the full support of the public, they're probably going to have to be pretty transparent and open to, hey, we're not going to do this, don't worry, kind of deal. Because I know some of the stuff that Alcoa dealt with, a lot of people are not happy with there.
And the problem, I guess, with that is at that site, it's probably still there.
Right.
So, but hopefully this won't add to it.
Yeah. It's a touchy subject, yeah, but I would say that they're looking for an industrial site that's already there that reduces your footprint already because that site was already there. You're not creating another industrial area out of some green space or anything like that. So, I mean, why not put it in Addie?
What's funny is with this whole, we shy away from using terms like climate change and all that kind of stuff, but it's kind of cool to me to see how the whole green movement has slowly progressed since 1970.
Right. Now you have.
I mean, like at a snail's pace, but now people are protesting.
Right.
People are forcing companies to change the way they do business. I mean, how often have you heard a company come out and say, "We're going to do this, and we're going to do this kind of industry," which has typically left a lot of bad byproducts behind. But we've came up with new ways to do it, and we're going to do it green, and we're not going to harm the environment. I mean, that kind of shows you that. I mean, sometimes I think we get disheartened in what our vote stands for or what our voice stands for. But more and more people are crying out, and look what it did.
Right.
And the companies that pollute and harm the environment, one of our news stories on KCHW yesterday was about Chevron and how they sent out a letter to all of their retirees and employees asking them not to buy electric cars because they cost too much. What? Yeah, I heard that news story and I just shook my head and went, "Oh wow, that's some bad press."
How awkward would it be if you're like executive at Chevron and you show up in an electric car?
Look at my Prius.
Look at my Tesla.
I'm still using a little gas.
Yeah, just a little bit. It's a hybrid. It's fine. I'm still supporting you guys.
But yeah, and even those companies, I should say. I mean, you can take a look at GE. They're always trying to promote different ways to think green and stuff like that. And I'm sorry for the gas companies, but you better come up with a different way to get on the boat.
Right. That's
Than
true.
begging your employees not to buy electric cars.
It's not going to go very well. But.
They should have thought that would make it to the press somehow. All right.
But yeah, I think this is good news. It's very early. There's been a lot of companies that have looked at that site before and kind of passed it up, but we'll see if this is different. We'll follow this. If true, if they do move forward with this will be a boom for the area and the economy there.
Definitely need it. All right. All right. Any closing shots, Brandon?
I'm fresh.
I look forward to having sports, but all wrapped up, right?
Yes, all wrapped up. The only thing going on is Legion baseball right now, and that's kind of in early season action there. So, unless you want me to talk about the Mariners, but they're terrible. So.
Yeah, no. We'll pass on that. Maybe next time, Brandon.
Yeah, maybe next
maybe
time
something will happen.
We'll do a Mariners
Exciting
report. It'll be great. And we'll end up just talking about pollution. So it'll be good.
It'll be good. All right, that's our show for this week. I am Scott.
I'm Brandon.
Thanks for listening to the Week in Review with Brandon Hansen, Managing Editor of the Chewelah Independent, and Scott Allen, Managing Director of Northern Lights Public Radio. Past episodes are in video format on the Chewelah Independent's website and on KCHW's YouTube channel. This program was recorded and filmed at the KCHW FM studios in Chewelah, Washington.